Issuing ballots is the most important part of your work on Election Day. By making sure this is done correctly, you're protecting the fairness and integrity of the election. Upon arriving, each voter must present a photo ID to the inspector or one of the judges. The inspector or one of the judges review the ID to determine if it meets requirements. If it doesn't meet the requirements, then the voter will be challenged. If a voter signs the poll list first but does not have a photo ID that meets the requirements, the voter is not allowed to leave and go get it. They must cast a provisional ballot. If the voter's photo ID document meets the requirements, the poll clerks locate the voter's name on the poll book and proceed under the regular process. The voter signs and verifies their address on the poll list before voting. Remember, the address on the poll list does not have to be the same as on their photo ID. The clerk compares the voter's signature on the poll list with the voter's signature on their registration card. If a poll clerk questions the voter's identity based on the voter's signature, the poll clerk may challenge the voter. The poll clerk is also required to ask the voter to provide or update their voter identification number, more commonly known as the voter's Indiana driver's license number. If the voter doesn't have a license, the last 4 digits of their Social Security number serve as the voter identification number. At this time, the clerk will also verify on the poll list that the voter is not required to show additional documentation. If the voter doesn't fit into the regular voting process, there are other situations called fail-safes that protect voters' rights and help solve problems on Election Day. A voter may not need to cast a provisional ballot if one of the procedures applies to their situation. Poll workers should always check whether a fail-safe procedure can solve a problem before filling out a challenge form and issuing a provisional ballot. So, what are some of the problems that can be solved with fail-safe procedures? A voter could be left off the poll list by mistake. Records might mistakenly indicate the voter has moved out of the precinct. The voter has moved outside of the precinct, but is allowed to return to their old precinct to vote. Or the voter has proof of having applied to register to vote, but the voter's name does not appear on the poll list. You can also find detailed descriptions of when and how to use fail-safes in your poll worker training manual. In the end, if the precinct election board isn't sure whether one of the fail-safe procedures should be used, the inspector should always attempt to contact the county election board for guidance. Now, let's look at the final steps you'll take in issuing ballots. In primary elections, voters must announce the party for which they intend to vote. Be sure each voter gets the right party ballot and that their party choice is written on the poll list. In the primary election, school board offices and public questions are the only issues that can be voted on without requesting a party ballot. In optical scan counties, before handing out the ballot, both poll clerks must initial the back. Clerks should also initial the secrecy envelope when optical scan cards are used. Next, voting booths. Give each voter their ballot once a voting booth is available. Remember, clerks must also mark the poll list to show that the voter has voted in the election. How voting occurs in your precinct depends on what type of voting system is used. Different counties use different systems. Your county election board will provide you with training on your voting system.